Greenfield Lakes Board of Directors meeting. Wanted to remind you that this is a Board of Directors meeting and it is for the board to conduct HOA business. There is a time that homeowners can speak. That time is when there is a motion on the floor before the board goes to the vote, and that comment must be on the current motion on the floor. Cody, before I called the order, you did ask to go ahead and
Yep,
speak.
appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Yep. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining tonight. Wanted to take a second and recognize that today is Veterans Day. So wanted to take a minute and just thank all of our veterans. Anyone who's got family that's a veteran, we appreciate you. We appreciate everything they do for our country. My wife is a veteran, so it is near and dear to me. So I just want to say thank you for everyone who's taken the time to get on today. Not the ideal day to get on, but given certain constraints we have with the budget deadlines, today was the only option. So for those of you who were able to make it, we do appreciate it.
I think as loud as it goes.
All right, so we will go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m.
Yeah, because I turn it down.
Brooke, it sounds like someone may or may not be muted.
Yep, I'm going through right now and making sure. I have to scroll a little. Okay, it looks like we do have everybody but board muted. Okay, so we do have quorum of the board. We're going to go a little bit out of order. We are going to start with the board positions for president, vice president, secretary / treasurer. So we will need a motion and a second and nomination for each position. Board.
Okay. Yeah, I'll motion to have a conversation.
Okay.
No.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Moving forward, we do have the first seat as president, so I will need a motion, an appointment, and then a motion second.
I'm going to motion Cody for the president.
I second that.
Okay.
Thank you, Alex. Cody, do you accept?
Yes.
Okay. There is a motion and a second on the floor for Cody as president. Is there any board discussion? Okay.
I have just a comment, just looking to keep this or preserve what we didn't get the chance to do the first time around. So my justification as such is to preserve that.
Thank you. Okay. Any motion, any comment on the motion on the floor? Okay. I do ask that you raise your hand and then I will ask you to unmute. Go ahead.
Am I unmuted? Okay,
yep.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, since there were many more people on the election, is this only going to be a 3-person board, or are we going to add on the next 2 people who had the most votes?
That is on the agenda for later this afternoon, later this evening. This is just currently on the motion of Cody being president. That would the comment would be on.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. I'm down with Cody being president.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Okay. All right. With hearing no other or seeing no other hands raised, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Next, we have vice president. I will need a motion and a second.
Marcus as vice president.
Thank you, Alex.
I'll second.
Thank you, Cody. Marcus, do you accept as vice president?
I accept.
Okay, thank you. Any board discussion? Any homeowner comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. So by default, that would make Alex at this time treasurer and secretary.
You guys will need a motion.
We don't need, actually, you won't because it's default.
By default.
So
You can't say no, man.
sorry.
I did say I want to preserve it.
Perfect. So then moving on to back to the agenda, we have the approval of the August 27th minutes. I will need a motion and a second to move forward when you are ready.
I motion to approve.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Marcus. Thank you, Cody. Any discussion? Any homeowner comment on the current motion of accepting the minutes? And I do actually see a typo. So I will make sure that that is fixed.
Uh-huh.
There is an extra U and an 8 at the beginning of Greenfield.
Also, this, let's see which man. Yep.
Seeing no comment, all in favor?
I
Hi.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. We did go ahead and include the financials in your meeting packet. I will go ahead and go over the operating income, the operating amount. Checking account has $63,243.67. Your money markets do have a total combined of $704,035.67. We did not receive any questions that on the current as of September 30th. Was there any specific questions that the board had?
nothing specific from me.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
The financials were posted to the homeowner portal as well about 4 weeks ago, and they're open to all homeowners on their homeowner portal. So I would just need a motion to accept the financials subject to audit at the end of the year.
Motion.
Thank you, Cody. I'm sorry, I missed who seconded.
That's me, Alex.
Okay, sorry, Alex. I looked down and didn't see the microphone go. Okay. Any board discussion?
No discussion, but are you able to zoom in just a little bit on that, Brooke, without it cutting anything off the screen? If it's not, don't worry about it, but oh, there you go. Make
Sometimes
it
I
easier for everyone
can.
to read.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any no board discussion? Any homeowner question? Not question, but comment on the motion? Okay. Seeing no hands raised. All in favor?
All right.
Motion carries unanimously. All right, going back up to the agenda. We are now at board resignation. Board, I will turn this over to you.
Awesome. We have to, I'm sorry, I need a motion to discuss it, right, Brooke?
You don't have to motion to discuss, it's just a
Okay.
discussion point.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So as many of you probably know, we had the re-election a couple weeks ago. We sent out an email shortly after we received notices from both Jill and Patrice that they were going to resign from the board. We wish them all the best. So what we're going to do right now is the board has decided it wants to take a minute to really review and discuss all the options at hand, review them, weigh them, so we can make a true educated decision. Given tonight, we have to get the budget done. It's going to take the bulk of the time. And when you have some other questions we need to have answered, we're going to postpone making a decision tonight, do our homework, and come back with a decision in the next meeting. Is what I'd like to do.
Rest of board, I will need a motion in a second to go ahead and just table for further discussion by the board.
I motion for that.
Okay, Marcus. I'll need a second.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. Any board discussion on tabling the motion for further clarification on the CCNRs and bylaws and things like that?
I mean, I guess that's what it really comes down to, right? It's just making sure that everything is done the right way, everything's done with white gloves to make sure there's no stone left unturned. It's just affording us a little bit more time to make sure there's no mistakes made.
That is correct. Okay. Any homeowner comment on the current motion?
Yes, so when the board actually determines that, will there be another meeting with homeowners so that the homeowners are aware of who's going to be on that board and have a say?
So all meetings are open unless there's 5 topics that can't be discussed in open session. So yes, if that will be done in an open meeting.
And Brooke, I'd like to be other, it's not on the thing, but we'd like to have a meeting next month in December. So
Yep,
everyone
I
knows.
have you guys down for a
Perfect.
December meeting.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
The CCNRs, they have been, where were they created?
They were created at the beginning of the association.
The beginning of the association. Okay. Are these a Arizona law thing or just a HOA rules?
CCNRs are binding contract and they follow state statute. There is some state statute that does supersede.
Some state, okay. And is there any way to change or modify such rules?
It depends. It depends on the situation. You cannot further, there's certain things you can and cannot change in CCNRs due to a Supreme Court ruling.
Okay.
If there's notice in your documents, then you can make a change. If there's no notice, which is most likely there's no notice in your CCNRs, they cannot be changed.
And this is from the Arizona Supreme Court?
That is.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you give us an idea of what some of the options are as far as the board, filling the board?
I would have to read the documents and see. I mean, it depends. The board can move forward with appointing 2 people to the next, but I don't want to speak to it because I haven't read all the documents.
Yeah, I think the best answer there is, as far as I can tell, personally, there are multiple options, but one of the things we want to do is I personally want to understand all the options, and I don't know just exactly what they all are yet. So I think it would be irresponsible to say, hey, here's the options, when that's one of the things we want to make sure we understand fully. Once we understand them, I do think absolutely we should share them, and we will make sure everyone knows the options.
Thank you.
Yep.
So no other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Right.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on then. We are at the 2025 budget. I will go ahead and turn this over to Harmon to review the budget.
Okay, they're going to make me the
Shows you co-host, but I will make you host.
make me the host. Okay, I'm going to put my draft budget. Okay, a little bit of a discussion or the way we approach budgets. If you've seen this before in the last couple of years, we go down the same process. We look at the operational budget, expenses first, and then we look at your reserve study, and we carry the reserve study asset list, the replacement cost, the life of that asset and then the remaining life. And we take these operational expenses and the reserve requirements, and we have a sophisticated budget model that we put those in as a tool for the board to run scenarios, meaning what if we change this? What if we change that? What income do we need to sustain this or to pay for those reserve items? So what I'm going to do is go through the expense line items first, line by line. And then we look at it, every expense line item, and we look at the current run rate. What are we currently spending for the first 10 months of the year? And that's the run rate. We look at external forces that might be raising those expenses. For instance, utilities have gone really high this year. The city, the town of Gilbert, I guess I should say, not city, but the town has raised water rates tremendously. The electrical utility has raised those. So those are external forces you really don't have any control over. Then there's internal contractual obligations, the landscaper, the management, pest control, any other contractual raises that are built in, I put those in. So that said, if you can see the screen, the first one is clerical. A little bit different this year. Previous years, we've had a printing category, a stamps category, and a clerical. Clerical is your mass mailings, the mailings to the entire community for the annual budget and year-end letter, which is what we'll be doing in the next month. For the voting and the annual meeting, those are mass mailings, any other mass mailings that the board would want to do. Also, the mailing house that we use also produces the letters that are sent out to community on inspections. So that's actually in clerical. So we've collapsed the printing and the postage into clerical into one category. And this is actually your run rate of $733 per year. The coupons and statements, by Arizona law, the board knows at least that you have to mail the coupons and statements. It's the Full Employment of the Printing House Act, we sarcastically call it. There is a way to reduce that if homeowners fill out a form that we have. I'll give you a reminder of that. You actually have to waive your right to the law. So it's not as simple as send me email statements instead of printed statements. You actually have to waive your right to the law. It's a signature form that we have to have. Anyway, our current run rate combination of printed and email quarterly is $227.50. Legal fees, this is a big unknown. We've had very high legal fees this year. In a normal year, your legal fees would not be very high. So this is a budget item that the board should weigh in on. I made it what I feel would be an average normal year for an average community of your size, about $5,000. And this is not collection costs or any other legal fees that would go into a homeowner's account. This is just pure legal that the board would engage a lawyer. So I put that at 5,000, and that would certainly is an unknown how where that's going to land. Audit and tax, this is what the CPA gets to do your tax filings and your compilation. Landscape maintenance is your contractual obligation to the landscaper. Management services, again, contractual obligation to Focus Management for management services. Pest control is our contract with the pest control. Miscellaneous repair, I call it break fix. You put a budget in based upon run rates and best guess. We have a budget if something breaks to fix it. If we don't use it, the money stays in the bank. If we go a little higher, because something breaks, you have to fix it. Then we adjust the budget going forward accordingly. Tree pruning is run rate. That's about what we spent this year. Tree removal is a little under what we spent in typical years, but we have done, or the board has done, previous board has been a tree removal to get rid of the older and overgrown trees that were safety issues. So there's always a little bit of tree, but that's on the small side. Landscape other is your catch-all of everything else. So this is where fertilization comes in, any weed control comes in, any additional plants that are not a reserve but replace dead plants. Landscape other, overseed would be in this area also. Irrigation repair is very high for you, for this community. And that's break fix. That's our current run rate of break fix irrigation. So it's a very large number, but that's our current run rate for the 10 months of this year, with no increase, just the run rate. Playground, we have quarterly inspections. That's where you see quarterly, it bumps up a little by $400. And then the $150 is break fix for the playgrounds, for the tot lots. Reserve contribution we'll come back to. That's the variable that we use depending on the expenses and income. The output of that, or the net profit, if you want to call it that, is reserve contribution to make it a zero budget. Electric's your current run rate for the year, electrical usage, and then SRP raised it by 3.8% for next year. Water is actually, you're not, I forgot, sorry. Yeah, our water is our current water contractual obligation to the golf course to pay for the water quarterly. So that's budgeted in. That did go up this year. Insurance is a huge expense for HOAs, and your insurance went up significantly last year. We're seeing all HOA insurance going up between 10 and 20%. I put in on the low side conservatively a 10% increase given the current run rate or current expense of insurance. Property tax. HOAs typically don't pay property tax, but you're in a water district that has a water payment out of property tax. So that's what that $3,500 is really in property tax goes to, the water district payment. State of Arizona gets $50 flat for income. Last year, you didn't pay federal income tax, but you do pay federal income tax on passive gains depending on the level of those. So there might be some federal. We don't anticipate it if it stays for what was this year. And miscellaneous is exactly that. It's the catch-all of a little bit of money if it doesn't fit in the other categories. So that brings our total expenses, and you can see I just zeroed that out. So board, are there any questions about our expense line items at this point?
Just
Hey,
a quick,
Harmon, oh, go ahead, Cody.
I have a couple, but I'll let you guys go first if you'd like.
Okay. You know,
I have a verification question for you. Sorry.
That's all right.
Did you say that the average increase across the board from all of those communities was 30%? Is that what you said?
In what line item? No,
Sorry, in insurance.
No, 10 to 20.
10 to 20. Okay.
So I bumped ours up 10.
Got it. Okay.
Any other board questions on the expense line items? We'll revisit these again, but go ahead.
My other question on the irrigation, 84,200. We scratched the surface on these numbers. That's a run rate. That's what we've averaged over the past 12 months is $3,400 a month.
Right. It certainly is.
On top of the water, on top of everything else, we're paying actually $3,400.
Yeah, just give me a second. I'll pull up a financial. So
what does that mean? Is that
so for we haven't fully closed October yet, but October P&L has irrigation repair. Year to date, irrigation repair is $39,577.
So what is that? What are they just old sprinkler heads, or what? I guess what is that 39,000?
Many invoices of repairing. So it's all the drip system, it's the valves, it's all the sprinkler heads. We'd have to really talk with the landscaper on an extensive basis, or literally have a discussion with the landscaper to say, what do you see in the landscaping and why are they so high? But we have historically had high, but it was higher this year.
I think that's a good idea. We'll sit down with the landscaper and really pull that apart, because obviously that's above and beyond what we're already paying for water. So it's a little bit of a question mark. So we need to definitely figure it out.
Yeah. To give you a kind of where we were a year ago, when we did this a year ago, budgeting for 2024, we budgeted 18,000 for irrigation repair, and we've blown that out. So we're at 39,500. So that's why it took, kind of the run rate. I did look to see if there are any outliers, really big ones at some major large valve that maybe that's, not a normal just irrigation repair. We could bring that in. So even a run rate of 39,000 and
is there
putting at 41 is kind of a little bit less than run rate. Yes, go ahead.
So Harmon, are these the actual numbers each month? 'Cause they're all the same. So I'm assuming that's just an averaged out, right? They should
Yeah,
up and
they're
down
out.
whatever
No,
flow.
yeah. In the utilities, we know, we can predict the seasonality of electric. So we take the electric and we bump that up the rate. But for things like, repairing, there's no real seasonality. So we take the annual number and straight line it across the months.
Right. So the reason I asked is two questions. One, can you get us a report that actually shows the actuals? And the reason I'm asking that is I would be highly not suspicious. I would like to see if those increases followed AT&T's fiber, right? They were tearing up the entire HOA. So I'm curious to see, as we saw a spike as they came in, and maybe that's part of it, because that's, I mean, more than double is crazy. So there's got to be something there. So I'm really
Yeah.
curious to see
But
when those.
certainly we can have that report and email out to the board. Susan, excuse me, Brooke. There's several people in the waiting room that I see on the participant list.
I don't show anybody in the waiting.
How do I do that? I don't know.
I have to. I'm sorry. I'm the one that has to let him in. So I'm just going to disable the waiting room and admit these people. So sorry about that.
There is no motion on the floor at this time, so there's no homeowner comment available.
Okay, so but to your question on the irrigation, did it follow the AT&T? My intuition, because I look at your bills and I did look at your irrigation, is no. It's been across the board for the entire year, in different parts of the community. But we'll certainly get that report and email it out to you probably tomorrow.
Okay.
Anything else on the expenses? We're going to take these and put it into a spreadsheet. The next thing, we're going to look at your reserve items, and there's some good discussion to have in there.
Okay. Hey, real quick, one more question. Sorry, Cody.
Sure.
On legal fees, 416, obviously there's a reason why our insurance has gone up a little bit, quite a bit. My guess is that's probably a low run rate for what to expect going forward, right?
Yeah, well, that's the big variable. How are we going to predict legal fees, where our legal fees year to date are, a very large number. Our legal fees year to date for October, $34,000.
But that included help with the election and such, right? That's all.
I don't know if it includes everything from the election, because we have to look at the last bill from the lawyer and see if anything has not been billed.
Okay.
So in terms of, sorry, Marcus, anything? I want to catch up. I apologize, man. Okay.
I'm good.
All right. So Harmon, a couple questions. So the contracted items, right? Landscape, you guys, pest control. Have we got notices of any increases coming next year?
The landscape has a small increase in it, correct? And the management has a contractual increase of 2.3%
No.
in it.
Pest control has a small increase. Landscape
pest control.
did not.
Oh, okay. I apologize. So that is the current landscape?
Yeah.
Okay. And pest control had the small increase?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Okay, board, next step.
We don't get to speak.
No, there's no motion on the floor. So
accepting the budget was a motion.
No,
there's no motion.
There's no exception. We're reviewing the budget still. There's no motion on the floor. There's no motion been made, no exception.
Okay.
I have one other question.
Yes.
On the insurance, Harmon. So you said the average you're seeing is 10 to 20%. So that tells me some HOAs are already getting their increase notices. Assuming we have not gotten ours?
No, we're going to probably see it in the next month. You typically get it about 2 months ahead of time. And ours is February renewal.
Got it.
So we'll see it in December.
Okay.
I will say about our insurance, it was very difficult to get insurance last year. Your insurance went up significantly. I'm not even going to say significantly. I'll bring up the financials again.
But Harmon, is it an auto renew with the same company, or do they reevaluate us for?
Let's hope they don't drop us.
It's a reevaluation. It's never. It's a brokerage that we go through. They shop it out. They're not even doing 60 days in advance right now. They're doing 30 days because insurance rate market is so tough right now. The renewal comes in 30 days prior.
Wow.
So a year ago, we budgeted $13,772 for your insurance. Your insurance was dropped by that carrier, and we had to shop around to get you insurance, and the insurance came in at $59,000.
Now, did they ever present any information as to their justification for that increase?
Your loss rate.
Your loss run rate, you
Okay.
are almost uninsurable.
Okay, so in that case, is it safe to assume that if we can get the potential lawsuit question resolved of like people no longer filing lawsuits, we're not filing lawsuits unless necessary on both sides, that we can decrease the cost of our
Possibly.
insurance?
You have to go 2 to 4 years without any loss runs.
Yeah, so over time, that'll come down to back, hopefully, to near normal. But you have to show what Brooke just said, very little or no claims.
It's similar to car insurance, just way more expensive.
Okay, any other expense items, board?
Question.
All right. I'll bring up the spreadsheet. You're still
sharing.
Yeah, I'm trying to change my share. Okay, so this is the expenses that we just went through. So not that I expect you to be able to read this, but I just want to show you we took those expenses and we put it in this model. The next thing we look at is your reserve assets. So let me see if we can make sure you can read this. All right, are you able to read that on the screen?
Yes.
You need it a little bigger.
I can see it.
You see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a complete list of all your assets or capital items that are reserved. And this is from your reserve study that you did in 2021. So we continue those numbers and those items going forward every year. We increase the current value by CPI or inflation rate of each item, and then we adjust the years if those were worked on or replaced. But there are a few that are out of the scope of the reserve study that was done in 2021 and was worked on by a previous board last year. And I'll just say it's all about walls. You can go down and see, pet stations and play structures have, this is what play structures cost. That might be on the low side given the last couple of years. Painting and your metal view fencing, benches, dry wells, granite, all those things are in the reserve study. You can see one example here of granite. You did granite a couple of years ago. So here's the expense of granite, several hundred thousands of dollars, a 15-year life, and in 13 years, you're saving up to redo it again. Block walls and paint. Block walls and paint are similar. Zero means this year, so we have money to paint the block walls. The big number is this number. It's the block wall repair. We don't know what that is. We don't know, because of the current discussions and legal issues that have been talked about for months, where's that going to fall? You certainly have a lot of walls that need repairing. Is it going to be 100% HOA expense, or is it going to be sharing with the homeowner? We don't know. We don't know how to budget that. So I use the number that was from last year's budget, given that's at least a starting point. We can do scenarios with you, board, and you can say, let's lower it, let's raise it, and let's see how it affects our overall budget cash flow. But I wanted to show you these numbers. Everything in red is a variable. So the years and all the amounts are variables that we can play with. So all these numbers and our expense numbers feed into this main page. It's a lot of numbers, I know, but you're going to see the output here in a second. So again, the red are variables. It gives us what we can change. Our current assessments are 160 a quarter. We have 785. This is a key number right here that I'm highlighting, the 785,000. That's our starting cash. So that gives us the starting point. We're estimating that in cash on December 31st, 24 to start. We put 45 days of expenses in the checking account. That's what the 60,000 is. We estimate inflation right now at 2.5%, and your return on investment is 3.5%. So that's what these numbers are down here. All this comes down to this bar chart. So this bar chart is a 10-year cash flow bar chart with 4 bars per year. So it gives you the blue bar. The first one is your contribution to reserves. The red is your expenditures from reserves. The green is your actual reserves, and your purple is your theoretical full-time or full funding. So that's if you're 100% reserved, you hit the purple. To be very simplistic, you want the green bar near the purple bar. About 80% is considered good in the real estate and HOA world. 70% is like a C, like in school. D is not good, 60%. Under 50 is not considered very good at all. Some mortgage lenders will start looking at that. And of course, investors and homeowners want to see where you're reserved at. So you can see the big line is a huge number, $719,000 for next year, comprised of mostly walls. So where that falls depends. So we take all those expenses, all the requirements of reserves for money being put away, and you have the lever, if you will, of income. How much should the assessments be? So right now, I had a starting point of a 10% increase to $176 a quarter. Just to show you what happens if we go to zero increase, keep it at 160, and then inflation going forward, the numbers go negative real quick. You see the green line is negative. So if you put it at 10%, it starts to climb. You can see in 10 years, you're getting in the good zone. So it's a plan. Just to be overly pushing to show what the numbers do, you put it to 20%, you have too much money. So 10% is a good starting point of a scenario for you, and I can adjust it as you like. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. It's a lot of numbers, it's a lot of information. Board, the three of you, if you want to ask me questions or say you want to see what a different scenario looks like in different expense or in different asset life or in different assessment increases, that's what I'm here to do for you, so you can make a decision.
Cool. I am curious. So we have budgeted, what is it, 417K, is it, for our
right here?
Yes, for our block repairs. How much have we increased in reserves in total from last year to this year, considering that we had a lot of stuff that we put on hold? I don't know how, with exact numbers, what the legal costs and other things that were incurred due to the churn in the last 6 months. What are we looking at? Can we increase that budget at all?
Well, it's not that the budget, it's did we increase the net reserves from last year to this year? You can look at the balance sheet of November last year, excuse me, October, and the balance sheet this year. They have gone up because your expenses that you hit in the legal were hit in operational. So if you just look at the P&L, let me pull that up. I can show you. So actually, let me look at something else. I have a P&L last year versus this year. All right, we'll go to financials. So we look at the balance sheet. The balance sheet today, or end of October, is $718,000 in reserve. So remember 718. And if we look at the balance sheet of October 2023, it was 628,000. So we've increased our reserves from 628,000 to 718,000. And that was done because we're putting away reserves every month. We contribute to reserves. It's on your P&L. It's called the reserve contribution line. And year to date, you've put $48,000 from checking into reserves. You're budgeted to put in $58,000 from in total from operations into reserves. So that increases your reserves. So that's kind of the savings, the long-term money, if you will. This model that we're looking at right now, this number right here, I'll highlight it. That's how much we put away per month in this scenario that we're looking at. So basically it's about $80 more per month contributing to reserves than we currently are this year. So you're funding your reserves basically the same, but your operational expenses went up, and you're increasing your in this scenario, increasing your assessments by 10% to pay for operational expenses, because your reserves are still at the same amount, relatively speaking. Does that answer your question, or is that too much of an answer?
No, that's totally fine.
All right, great.
For those that are listening to.
Okay, any other
Yes.
scenario or things you want to look at?
Yep, Harmon, on the wall thing, I think we call a spade a spade. At 417, we know how many walls need to be fixed, repaired. We know it's not a cheap venture. I would argue 417 is a low number, no matter how it plays out, 100%, 50%. I think 417 is well underestimated. If you bump that up a little bit, a couple 100,000, can we look at the numbers then?
Sure. The 417 number, by the way, was last year's, and this model bumps it up by the CPI. So it bumped it by 2.5 in the model. So this is that number we're talking about right here,
Right.
427. So you want to take it to 600 and see what happens?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, there's 600. Now I'm going to go back to the other tab. The bars will change in real time, but you'll see them change. It's kind of interesting when it does that there. So if there's 600,000, you're negative for the next 4 years in contributions, or in reserves.
And that's with a 10% increase in dues.
That's correct. That's with a 10% increase. So if you're at 600,000 and you increase 20%, you get over the hump, and then you have too much money in year 7, 8, 9, and 10. But year 2, 3, you're in year 1 and 2, you can't afford it.
What's the consequence of not having enough reserves? You were talking about lending and whatnot, but is there insurance consequence from having reserves? Does our insurance continue to go up? Do they not approve us? What are the other issues for not having enough reserves?
Okay, I'm having a hard time understanding. I think your question was, go ahead, Brooke.
I got it. No, so insurance is not, your reserve amount doesn't play into insurance. It mostly plays into your owners being able to take mortgages out, buyers, things like that.
Well, so I am a lender by trade.
Yeah.
And being that this is not a condo community, it's pretty rare that we look into the financials of a PUD, planned urban development, right? So it's pretty rare. It can come up, but it's not something that generally comes up in our approval process. So
I've had it a lot where they've asked for the budgets and looked at the reserves, and some communities haven't been reserved, and they say, nope, we won't lend.
It's certainly a much bigger issue in condominiums. Than a PUD.
Correct. Yeah.
So if we took it to 600, as you noted, you adjust other things. If we're going to fix that many walls, do we spend 110,000 on painting? Because that's down here also. Or to say, okay, what else do we have to do this year? Here's all a bunch of zeros. Do we do the metal fencing this year? This is where you can say, let's push it out next year. For instance, let's put this, it got 600,000, but what if you did it in 2 years? I'm not saying so. I'm just giving you a scenario. You see how the bars move significantly in year 1 and 2, and you're building up your reserves so you can afford it in year 3.
So that's a 20% increase though, Harmon. Can you bump that down to 10?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Can you bump the due increase from 20% to 10? Because that model you just
do I still have it at 20? Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, 20 is kind of, it was just to show a point.
Right,
I'm in no way in saying you should do 20. I don't want to be tar and feathered.
That is maximum too, that state.
Yeah, the state statute max is 20%. You also have a curious meaning, it's not unusual, but you don't see it that often, called a maximum annual assessment in your documents, and it's based upon cumulative CPI. So when the community, from the first sale, and as far as we can tell, going back, your first sale was 1998. So it's basically cumulative CPI or 6%, the higher of, compounded every year, gives you the maximum ceiling you cannot cross, but state statute gives you a year to year of 20%. So that's, your ceiling's way up there. You're not even close to your ceiling. So 20% is your max, but that's usually a scenario you don't want to go to. But here's your 10%. We'll go back to, you want me to adjust the 600, push it out a couple of years, or lower, or what do you want to see?
Yeah, how might I say lower back down to your estimation? I just wanted to see what that, because I know we did that research last year, but I don't know how many walls need to be replaced since the time you guys looked at it last year. So I feel that number is probably a little light, but let's go with 427.
Okay. My crystal ball is not much better than yours, and that's just a number we don't know. It's going to be a big number,
right?
And that's the top priority of what the board needs to start looking at. That got put on hold when all the
changes
voting started happening.
Right.
So
there's a number of safety concerns with the walls. So I definitely think those are top priority. Now, Mark, I mean, looking at like the granite replenish, right?
Yes.
I'm assuming that's just a simple aesthetics thing. That's, you're talking about the granite, the gravel along in the HOA common areas, right? That's what the granite replenishes?
That's correct.
Right. So personally, if we got to choose between, walls, safety, or some rocks not maybe being dirty, the walls seem like they take, much higher on the list there. What if we were to adjust that down or bring that out, or how does that modeled out?
Okay, so the granite, this column right here, that's in how many years you need to spend the money. So we just did it 2 years ago with a 15-year life, then it's 13 more years.
Okay, so all those numbers there, that's not contributing towards the numbers right now when you look at years 1 and 2.
They only contribute on how much per year you need to save. So that's what, if you want to look at numbers, it's these numbers here. So this category says, how much you need to save to do this. You need to put away, $5,000 a year to write that check in 13 years. So where it does matter, it's say, you know what, I don't think 15 years is the right number. Again, we're not the experts in reserve studies. This was taken from a reserve study that was done by a reserve study company. But if you put these at 20 years and you say, okay, we're going to do them in 18 more years, and then you go to see what that does to your bar chart, it just lowered all those purple lines, which means your green line is much closer because your amount of money you need to be 100% reserved just got lowered.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how this thing works.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then in terms of like, the parks, the basketball courts and stuff like that, I'll admit I haven't gone through the reserve study in detail. It's like 400 pages. I've run through it, but not page by page. Is there any playground equipment or anything at all that you guys are aware of that is in need of where it's potentially, causing risk or issues to the kids or anyone playing on them that we need to be aware of and factor in?
No, that we actually have inspections that are completed by a company, so no.
Okay.
As far as that, I would focus on the one piece that is kind of like the play structure, but it's the parks, it's the sand replenishment. So you do have budgeted, it's not extremely expensive, but it is budgeted to replace the sand underneath the play yards, and that is a safety item. But if the maintenance has been doing well and your inspections are doing well, they have to sift it, they rototill it, they fluff it up so it's a safety fall, not a safety fall hazard. But that, to your point, that is in your reserve study. So you look at all the zeros. So you have a zero here in the block wall repair. You have a zero in the metal fence repair. Here, and the metal fences are by segment. So you have all these segments of metal fences, all these zeros right here. And then you have this one is, dry wells. So every 3 years we got to clean the dry wells. This is painting the fence and this is painting all the community block walls. So you have a repair and you have a separate painting budget. That's this 109,000 or almost 110. And then here's your sand, and that's all the zeros. So it's really walls, fences, and a few other little items.
So where does stucco on the walls that is falling off and needs to be maintained come from?
That would be block wall repair. That's not paint. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not painting. Painting is literally, 80 cents a square foot to paint.
Okay.
That's what you see the calculations here. We have 122,000 square feet of wall at 80 cents. And that's what that number comes up to. And these calculations are from your reserve study. So at this scenario, I gave you a starting point at 10%. It's the ball's in your court, board, what you want to do as far as raising it. Now, let me point out one more thing. So we do have an inflation rate of 2.5% in this model, in this scenario. This area right here that I'm highlighting in gray is the next 10 years. So year 1, year 2, year 3, as you see up here. So it's 10% this year, and I put a 5% next year, and a 5% and a 5%, and then inflation basically forever. But if so it's a combination of increases that go from 10% and then 5, 5, 5, then 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. So these are kind of futures. You need to raise it more than 10 eventually, but doing it over time is usually a much more attainable or acceptable way of doing it. So 5, 5, and 5. We put these back to inflation. You can see what happens with the numbers. Even at 10% and then back in inflation, long term, your numbers go way down. So I just wanted you to point that out. Now, that I messed that up, didn't I? There, put it back to 427. Okay, so we do this scenario every year. We did this the last couple of years with the previous boards. So this is a tool for what do you do in the next, 2025, and then we analyze it all again in November next year. And you just try and make corrections along the way, and you're saving for long-term expenses and your operational annuals.
Harmony, is this a document that we can plug and play with on our own and then talk
we
to
need
later?
We need a budget approved by the 15th, by Friday.
Okay.
Because this has to be sent out to the entire community 30 days before January 1st. And we need, that next week before Thanksgiving to mail it to everybody.
Okay.
So this is why we would have done this last month, given a normal situation.
Right.
So yeah, you're kind of on the hot seat here to approve a budget.
Okay. Board, is that something that you guys want to do? Is take the sheet, kind of play with it, and then how do we communicate after we convene here, Harmon? Like, how do we?
You have to do this in an open board meeting. That's why it's tonight. If you want to individually research and look at it, and then we call another open board meeting, technically you can do that, but I don't think we have any slots unless you want to do it during the day.
I
So
don't
basically,
even
right
have
now,
daytime. I
Right.
can't do daytime either.
Yeah.
so basically, we're just deciding because the numbers we're forecasting numbers. We don't know what they're going to be, right? Of course. So it's determining whether a 10% increase is going to be sufficient to cover what we think is going to be our expenses coming up. That's what we're determining right now.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yes.
My thought here is, I mean, even at 418,000, 19,000, that's not going to cover the walls, right? Whether it's half, whole, it's going to be more of a what can we cover next year? And then we kind of take it year from year. There is kind of how I'm seeing it. Man,
Your wall project's not going to take it's not going
it's
to
going
be
to
a
take
1 year
years. Yeah, it's going
project,
to take
right?
years.
It's definitely a multi-year,
Yep.
but you need the money in the bank to do the project in any way, however it ends up being.
Was that 417 that was allotted for this originally? Was that done based off of the prioritization of the walls? I would assume it was as far as priority with them degrading, but also like ones that needed to be addressed in a certain window of time, or how was that rated in order to be able to calculate that 417?
Yeah, I believe when we did the budget last year, that's what the board did. They looked at the highest priorities and what they could accomplish in the next year by doing those. And it was based upon a 50-50 expense.
Okay. Okay, so the walls have a lifespan of 30 years. So assuming that the walls that we do repair this year are 30-year covered, we're going to be looking at doing this. Well, I don't know what the total overall budget estimated is to cover the entire HOA, assuming that we were to take care of everything, just drop the money into it. I would assume that that's substantially more than what we have budgeted. Would I be correct?
I'm not sure of your question. You
So let's
talking
say that
about
we needed to repair
reserve?
all
Go on.
walls that need that need repairs at this point. Was the 417,000 allotted to address all of those walls that need repairs, or else they're going to fall over?
That was the best estimate. The board at the time decided on that number by prioritization and estimating the best they could without having concrete estimates or estimates period from contractors and doing a scope of work. So in January of 24, I believe, they were actually interviewing and hiring a project manager that was going to draw up the scope of work and then start to get bids from contractors to see where that expense really was. Then they could prioritize and see what dollars they were. This was by the 417 a year ago was by no means an accurate number by anything that just taking the best guess.
Okay, so Sarman,
we still don't know. That's right.
Got it. So essentially, they were saying, okay, $840,000. That, and obviously, just a guess, right? But that wasn't to come in and cover all the walls. That was just the top priority based on the wall study we've got. Correct?
It was based upon the engineering study of the walls that you have.
Okay.
And the engineering study does not have dollars in it. It just has linear feet of wall. So I believe one of the board members that is a retired engineer did analysis of linear feet of wall and what an average expense would be, and they came up with a rough number just to have something.
And Harmon, if I'm reading your spreadsheet right, the flat annual reserve for walls going forward is 14,248. So every month we're setting aside roughly what, $1,500 a month going forward for walls. So if we blow through this 417 in 2024, effectively we have no more money to pay for this. Is that what we're saying?
Brooke, did you understand that better than me?
Yes. Sorry. So he's saying basically if you're putting about $15,000 a month into reserves towards the.
No, we're putting about $4,900.
49.
$4,900 a month, or 60,000 for the year in round numbers.
But for walls, we're putting how much in going forward? If we use the 417, how much are we putting aside for future projects for walls in 2026?
Okay, so if you're putting you the way to look at it is you have, how much money do you have now, in reserves? You have 785 minus 60. It kind of goes back to our beginning. How much starting cash are you going to have in reserves at the beginning? And then if you spend 400, 500, 600,000, it's depleting your overall reserves. And then everybody, all these other little items want a share of that. So you build that back up over time.
Mhm.
So there's not a simple answer to what you're asking. That's why there's all these numbers. It's complicated.
Right.
All these numbers contribute to the summation of your reserve requirements.
Is it possible? Do we have access to this budgeting spreadsheet to be able to?
No, you don't. But through me, you do. Yeah, this is something we don't give out. I can give you PDFs of it, screenshots. You can look at it, but you can't. Scenario wise, I'd be glad to do one-on-one on the phone with you.
Gotcha. It's a trade secret, essentially.
Yeah, I've spent years building this thing.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I'm an engineer that does accounting.
I get it.
Yeah.
And Harmon, so just to confirm, right? If we did no increase, but we were to go through and we know we're going to spend $427,000 next year on walls, we're going to be in the red, correct?
Yep.
All right. If you do no increase this year, and I still have a 5%, and I'll put it back to inflation. So you'll be able to spend the money on the walls, but you'll be negative going forward. You see all the negative greens.
Okay.
This is the 10-year. This is the 30-year version. But if we can't get the 10-year to work, it doesn't even. Who cares what the 30-year version looks like, right? So there's a 30-year below it. So at a minimum, if you wanted to say starting of nothing, you ought to be in the mindset of inflation. If you just did everything in inflation, that's 2.5% currently. Actually, the inflation for Metro Phoenix is 2.3. So if you did 2.3, that's what it looks like if you did nothing else. So that's why we had this starting point of 10, because it's about what you could live with. That's where I made that starting point. If you did 5, that's what 5 does. You go negative in year 2. Again, we don't know what the wall expenditure is going to be. You can't do, well, you can do whatever you want. It's up to your decision. I can't say you can't do 0, but obviously you don't have enough money.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that 0 puts us in the red, which it clearly does. And we can also, I am by no means an engineer, but 400 grand is not going to take care of the walls, whether it's half or whole. It ain't going to do it either. So just wanted to make sure I understood that. What are you guys thinking, Alex, Marcus?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think we're underestimating the walls, we're underestimating the legal, we're underestimating irrigation. So yeah, I think it's necessary. Certainly don't want to go red.
Yeah.
So
10% is only $16. I don't want to minimize that, but it is $16. So it's not that bad.
Yeah, money is money, right? But understandably, okay. So if we keep it at 10%, but we were to increase the budgeted amount for the walls for repairs by a tad, a little more than projected with inflation. What do we have? What was the total expense that you had listed in the?
All right. So what number do you want me to put here?
So put 500.
You go negative next year or in 26.
Okay.
But that's also assuming we keep
you're
all the other expenses the same too, and we don't look at other areas to trim or cut.
That's right. All those other expenses just went up in the scenario model just by inflation. They stay where they are. But also you have year 2 to play, not to play with, but you can do year 1 barely. You can see the little green line. But if you did 10% in year 2, it still's negative. So it's cumulative interest is what's at play here.
I'm trying to figure out and understand how we were able to get our reserves to where they are, even legal circumstances in the past, other things that we've incurred. Is there a strategy that they were using that is different than what you are proposing right now? Or has this been the status quo from a budgeting standpoint, year over year?
The budgeting, if you want to call it status quo, has been using the reserve study you did in 2021 and your expenses going forward adjusted every year. So there are significant things that have happened in the last 2 years, or even if you want to say back a little more than 2 years, and that's the walls have surfaced as a major issue, and you did the wall study, and then the board was saying, okay, we really got to up the wall. So in your reserve study, the walls are nowhere near this number. So you've been reserving and budgeting upon a reserve study that said your walls were a fraction of the number we're playing around with right now.
Okay.
And then your operational expenses went up. The reserve study did not anticipate inflation over 5 years being, 23, 25% either. So we had a inflation blip, and now we're back to going forward maybe normal. But your reserve study was done upon I believe, a 3% inflation going forward in 2021, with the walls being a fraction. So those are the two major things: expenses and walls, inflation and walls. And also, I'll point out, you haven't raised your assessments in a long time. I think I did a little thing here. What I did. That's your max. All right, so that doesn't show. So if you would indulge me for one moment. When we took over, I looked at how long it's been, but we only have the record I can grab right now quickly for the last few years. So in 2021, when we started with you, you're at 152, and I believe you were at 152 for a while before that. And you were $152 up till the end of 2023. So you raised it by $8 in January 24. So you did do a bump in January, but previous, maybe anybody on the board that's lived here more than 4 or 5 years, what was it before that?
152 is the earliest that I recall, or the cheapest I've ever recall it being, and that was in 2017 when we moved in.
Yeah, I think you went many years without raising it.
I think Alex's question was trying to figure out, what did we do to get to the 417 we've got now? Was that 10 years of saving? Did it happen over a couple years? Just trying to understand that strategy. If it was 10 years of the saving, okay, that makes sense. They added, 20, 30 grand a year. Or was it just a spike? We were dumping 50, 60, 70,000 a year in there.
No, you were accumulating over the years your reserves.
Okay.
And then the expenses went up radically in the last 2. So you've been building up slowly. You were doing very well until walls and inflation hit.
And insurance and everything else.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so the additional cost we are incurring right now unexpectedly, or the increase in the repairs with irrigation that we've got going on, have you accounted for those increases? Do we expect that going forward to continue to be the case?
In what we're looking at, that those increases are in here. So in this expense, we're saying $41,000 in irrigation. So the operational expenses in this scenario model does not decrease. It's, you set it 1 year, this, for 2025, and it just increments by inflation every year. So if we said, hey, irrigation is going to be $3,000, $3,600, $36,000, or even I could change and make a point less, but yes, if you can save money here, going forward just saves money all over.
Okay.
Yeah, well, there's I don't have a provision for saying, okay, our operational expense for irrigation is going to be this in 25, but it'll go down to 36,000 after that and lower and lower. What we've seen in the many years we've been doing this, irrigation systems age. So unless you're going to put a whole new system in and then the aging starts over, this is going to continue to increase, or maybe it doesn't. But irrigation system gets aging.
So Cody, just to answer your question of how the reserves got to where they were, if you look at the reserve study, I just pulled it up. The block wall repair that they budgeted for in the reserve study from 21 was only $20,000, $20,600. So that is why, because in the time between this reserve study and now, the issues with the walls have come out and surfaced. So that's why those wall repairs aren't budgeted for or accounted for basically in the reserve study, because they weren't, when they did this reserve study, those issues weren't present.
Okay. That's helpful. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Excuse me.
What do you guys think? Are any other questions? Should we move on to? Yes, I see Amy waving her hand. We see it. We see it for sure. Just want to make sure that we follow procedure here. Anything else that we should cover?
No, it's, I'll do whatever scenarios and what you want to do. Your basic, I guess if you want to outline your options are for you to not make a decision tonight, but you need to make it this week, and we'll have to have another open meeting to do that, which doesn't seem feasible. Make a motion now at some level, and then we'll open it up to homeowner comment on that motion.
Cool. Marcus, Cody, any adjustments that you guys feel like we should be making to what is here currently?
No, I think it's as solid as it can be with the unknowns.
Yeah.
And again, I think a 10% increase is $16. It's $5 a month. I don't want to downplay it, but I also want to make sure we don't go negative. So I think a 10% increase is fair.
Yeah, I don't like it, but I think it's necessary, unfortunately. I mean, knowing the unknowns and that there's almost certainly nothing that's going to come in that's going to, give us money, or we're not going to have to pay for it. It doesn't, yeah, I'm the same.
Okay. I think considering obviously the unknowns, that there is a wild chance possibility that maybe we are over budgeting for stuff and we come in under. And if we come in under, we can then adjust in the following year to position that money into whatever else we need, obviously. I don't feel comfortable changing any of these numbers right now, given the circumstances that I've gone around the neighborhood myself many times and seen the state of the walls, and that obviously being the biggest concern and the primary subject of this budget here. I say that at the very least that we keep it for the projected 2025 budget expense. So yeah, I think I'm good with it. So then we would go now to homeowners. Yes?
No, you need to make a motion.
Okay, so I'll motion.
Motion for a 10% increase, is that right?
For a 10% increase.
I'll second it. Yeah.
Okay, any more board discussion?
Not for me.
Okay, so the homeowner comment is on the motion of increasing to the assessment of 176.
Perfect.
Harmon, you have host, so you're gonna.
Oh, that's right. I'm still the host. Okay, I'll just go from the top.
Amy had her hand up first.
Yeah, the top of my list is it Hommons?
Yes.
All right, I'm asking you to unmute.
Okay, thank you so much for unmuting. I have no problem with what is it, $16? I think that makes sense. And it will really reduce the lawyer outcome. If we're fixing the walls, nobody's going to be suing anybody. That's one thing. There you go. Number two, I've been looking at other HOA management companies. $4,000 a month about is quite high, especially when you have to hire an outside accountant according to your sheet right here. And if we got rid of, you had lots of time. If we got rid of our non-desert plants, why would we need irrigation? Get rid of that.
Out of respect, the motion was about the increase and the increase only.
Oh, that this is about the increase. All this goes along with the increase. This is how money is spent, correct?
No, it's a comment on the 176. So
Yeah, I think changing landscape and stuff, Amy, would be a different topic.
It's not okay. I'm sorry. I thought it was part of it, so I will.
You're okay.
I please forgive me, but yeah, there you go. I say it's fine for a little increase to stop the huge fighting within the neighborhood.
That's the goal.
Yes.
With that being said, Amy, if you've got some suggestions in order to help reduce that budget, please send them.
I sent them to you and Cody on Facebook Messenger right now.
Okay.
Amy, this is Harmon. Your comment, I just wanted to briefly touch on that we use an outside accountant. We do not. We do all your accounting in-house.
And why are we?
Because at year end, so every year you have a third-party CPA that is not an employee. It's chosen by the board. We recommend a CPA that does your tax filings and your required compilation report, and that's $750 a whole year. That's not inside our accounting departments. It's third party and make sure the books are good.
And that's cheap.
It's required by state statute.
Yes.
And Harmon, to that point, could you also explain, like, we have to have an annual audit of all of our finances. Who does the audit, and how can homeowners get access to the results?
Okay, so let me define that a little bit. The law requires a compilation, a review, or an audit. The audit is the highest standard and the most expensive, and usually you don't do audits unless the board for some reason wants to do an audit. There was an event you need an audit for, or your documents require it. Your documents do not require an audit, so we do a compilation. And that compilation is currently being done by a firm called Ginsberg and Wallaby, a CPA firm that specializes in homeowner associations. And it's called the compilation, and it should be on the website.
Perfect. Thank you.
And if it's not, Brooke's going to look right now, make sure it is. So I hope that answers your question, Amy. Okay. All right. Let's see, that's Katie's phone number 2. I'm going to recognize you.
Hello. I am also like in agreement with Amy, like 15, 16 bucks is not, it's not going to break the bank. But with that said, I think that the board and the homeowners are being kind of put in a peculiar situation. We have $35,000 in irrigation, and we have no accounting whatsoever to know what that is for. I don't think, I mean, respectfully, I believe that it's Focus job to, you know, if you guys get bills for $1,500, $2,000, $5,000, whatever it might be a month, to act on the HOA behalf and request itemizations to see like, what is that for? Should we look into different landscapers? Should we like, what is this for? Like, it doesn't seem, I don't want to use the word fair because life isn't fair, but it doesn't seem fair that we're given until Friday to make a decision, and it's got to be an open board meeting. Yet we don't have breakdowns of what that $35,000 is for. In addition, in regard to the water, you know, during winter when it's cold, like these cold months, our main, you know, like areas, I know between Estrella and Stotler, that park becomes flooded. Like, who is responsible for turning off those sprinklers so our parks don't become flooded and we're overpaying for water? Like, I feel like there's a lot of areas that we can maybe conserve on that that are maybe need to be brought to the attention or an agenda or something. These are just, you know, like I said, I don't mind the 15, 16, 20 bucks, whatever it is, but I feel like we need to also look at like cost effectiveness at the same time. You know, are our landscapers really doing that great of a job? You know, you go up Park Crest and there's weeds overgrowing on the sidewalks. Like, I just think that that's something that focus like needs to be kind of on top of on our behalf.
Now, Katie, I'm gonna cut you off, but this is Marcus. That, you know, again, we've spent the last 4 or 5 months with re-election stuff, and in the background, we knew this was building, and so we've again only been seated for 10 days or whatever. We're working on that, and that is 100% a goal that we're going to start chipping away at. That, you know, do more research, do a ride along. All these things are in the background, but again, it's been such a short time that we've actually had this ability to work on these things. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get there. So
right, Mark. Yeah, as far as the board is concerned, like, this is not like, I don't feel like this is at all like a board member like issue at all. I feel like this is something that's ongoing, that there should be like checks and balances of like, when you get, I know if I get like even on this $500 bill from my landscaper when it's 120 bucks, I'm like, wait, why did it go up $500? I just feel like there need to be checks and balances. And where has that checks and balances been this entire time? And I'm not saying the board members are responsible for that. I'm saying like focus, like as our advocate needs to like, we should be able to, like, when we ask a question, like, why do we have $35,000 in irrigation? Like, we should be able to, you as board members should be able to be given a fair answer. Like, this is why. And the response was like, we'll look into it, but you guys only have until Friday to approve the budget. Like, that, it's just, that's not right. That's not right on your guys' behalf.
That number again is, we're approving the budget for the increase. We're not approving the budget for all the numbers to say this is what it is. We can whittle it down as we go, right? So we're having to approve the increase. That's what this call is about, is making sure that we're all on the same page about a 10% increase, and the board and focus is going to work in the background to whittle down every number that we can. That obviously that's the goal. There's the checks and balances right there. But we need to be in this position to where we can do it.
I will say all invoices are itemized, and the board has the ability to view all invoices. So they are itemized. They do have them. We've sent them the itemized invoices. They are able to view them on their portal. They do state why and what was replaced. It's not just a lump sum number that is given.
There's many invoices per month, constant irrigation repair over. You have a very, very large HOA. So we do work with the landscaper. We do review all your bills. I will point out your water is a flat rate. You don't pay a variable on water. You pay a quarterly water fee to the golf course for the lake water. And there are issues and that the board has been looking at with water and how that affects our irrigation system also. So there's many things to this, and we are not just approving things. We work every week. We're talking to the landscaper about what's going on. So we're very well aware. So I'm sorry if my answer became or came off as one as we don't know. We certainly know. And these are invoices of, $100, $75, $400. There's no giant invoices of, 4 invoices of 10,000 each that is causing this.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Katie.
All right, Jonathan. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a question on the expenses. So all of these expenses, again, are actual expenses divided by 12. Is that correct? If that is the case, I am confused, as Alex asked earlier, again, how we got to that 417 number. If everything else is an actual expense, why don't we have a prior year's expense of wall repair, upkeep, etc., and then assume like anything for inflation, things like that on those specifically, because it is a very big expense and it doesn't seem to be an actual number.
I'm not in, is that a question or a statement, sir? Because every number that we went over in detail is either a run rate or an increase by some other force. So these are actual numbers used to project what may happen next year.
Well, on the 417, is that an actual number?
That's reserve. Yeah, you're mixing. So the operational expenses are the line item by line item that we use run rate. And we had a very large discussion over the walls, which the board and we don't know. That's a reserve expense for the board to decide. That's not a number. That number is not a budget number. That number is a prediction of the money you need to save up to make that. So maybe I'll let, maybe I'll let the board answer.
No, you don't. No, you don't have to replace the bottle. We already drank it.
Yeah, we're
Please
not gonna
mute
drink a bottle
yourself
of wine
if
and
you're
say,
not. Katie, please mute your phone.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think you're talking already.
Yeah, Brooke, I'm going to give you back
Host.
the hosting of this thing.
Okay.
So I'll stay on.
I'll
to
reclaim
answer.
it. I can just reclaim it.
All right, you got it.
As far as the walls, the cost in the past for wall repairs that we have done, did we do any in 2023, 2022 to go off of? Has it ever been done during you guys' tenure?
No.
Okay.
Other than we've repaired walls that were crashed in by cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't actually have an expense for walls, just that number that the prior board came up with.
I have to correct that statement. I just thought so we have repaired walls. Everybody knows about the wall in Quinn that was repaired, and we've had some car crashes on walls. So I had to clarify that. Okay. But there was no repair or systematic repair of the project. That's the point.
Sorry, I'll let Jonathan finish your question. Sorry.
Yeah, so there's not been any upkeep or any actual numbers so that we could come to an estimate, based on the longevity of the walls, and then being able to budget that way. If that makes sense.
No, Jonathan, I think that what Howard mentioned is the prior board was getting ready to hire a PM to go out and start getting bids so we could have those numbers, and that got put on hold. And so how did I answer that right for you?
Yeah, that is it. There's one thing that you guys can do if you want to get a better estimate regarding the walls. Update your reserve study.
Okay, that's fine. So from a historical perspective, understanding what we have paid historically for these wall costs in the sake of transparency, when we transferred from our prior HOA management company to Focus, was there ever a transition of the documents, the bills, invoices, everything that were paid by Focus when they were transitioned to you guys?
No, because that's not something that they don't have to provide us with the documentation. And so we get what we get, and we don't always get everything.
We have financial statements and the legal documents, everything that they would do. So we have those. We have individual invoices of walls. No,
nothing to go off of. Okay.
But I think your question, Jonathan, is, we did discuss that earlier, is where did that number come from, and is it a systematic? So there is a engineering study that was done of the walls about 2+ years ago. That is the basis of the wall repair, and the previous board used that study to do a very rough estimate of what they think they would need, just so have a budget number. And then, as Marcus or Alex pointed out, the process was that board was going to hire a project manager, scope of work, and go out and getting bids, and then they would know more of what is entailed. But there was a analysis done of the high priority walls that need to be done based off that engineering study. And drive around. There's walls with holes in them. There's walls that are leaning. There's walls that have been needing repair. So it's not of a straight line. Excuse me. The walls are 30 years old. We need to fix them in 30 years. That's a normal reserve study piece. If they were not in disrepair and they were built correctly way back when or not, that would work. But in this case, we have issues.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just curious because I think you rattled off a number immediately for paint repair at 88 cents a square foot. You know, I would assume that with that, all the information out there, we would know exactly, you know, within obviously a standard deviation of what the wall repair per square foot is, and you know how many walls we are getting close to in the 30 years, and then come up with an almost exact number.
Yeah, the paint is easy because you know what it costs to paint, and estimates are easy to get on paint. The wall repair is not, because the walls, some of the walls are the disrepair or the repair required is very vast by section. Some may need to be totally rebuilt, some don't. So that is outlined in that or in the wall engineering study. So you got to take it all by section. It's like hundreds of pages long, this wall study.
That's available on the portal, right, Harmon? I believe it is.
It's for the board, not.
Oh, that one's just the board. I apologize.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Scott,
Okay.
I'm asking you to unmute.
Now, look, I'm not sure where to start. Yeah, Jonathan, just one quick thing on Jonathan's comments is yeah, the $417,000 is probably because there was been no wall repair, and as you've probably seen, I drive around the course all the time. There's been no wall repair done in probably 10 years. So that's been sat idle and just finally needs to come to a head, which doesn't need to be all done at one time. But starting back on irrigation real quick, since I do know a little bit about the irrigation, you guys have miles of pipe out here. This is not just your front yard, backyard, and how can this bill be so big? There's a ridiculous amount of pipe. There's probably 200 valves. There's probably 500 sprinkler heads. You have 1,000 emitters. You have just everything. $3,500 a month is zero for irrigation costs. I mean, that's negligible. So I wouldn't even worry about going down that road on irrigation costs because there's no way you're going to get cheaper than that. That's ridiculously low, I think. Harmon, you had another wall column of repair of $164,000 on your spreadsheet all the way down at the very bottom of it. So it goes 417 and then down towards the bottom, and you got another 164 that says wall repair by it. What is that?
Good catch. You're right. That was an add-on to the higher priority walls up above. So thank you for pointing that out.
So is that like what we really need to spend this year in walls, and then
I think the previous budget broke that. The previous board broke that out. That was an additional subsidy, or not subsidy, addition, and on top of that, 420,000. So to your point, that does, if you add those two numbers up, it is almost $600,000, 595,000. But it was okay. Let me back up. So that was 1 year out. So you remember I showed the column of the year zeros and the year ones and all the other years.
Right.
So what the previous board did is it was 417 a year ago, and that would be the first year, and then it was 164,000 for the year after that. So they broke it up over 2 years. So there is right now in this scenario is 427,000 in 2025 and 168,000 in 2026.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. And then, I mean, no disrespect to anybody, but the bottom line, I would take the hit and do the 20% at $10 per month per house to start getting some of this maintained, because again, walls haven't been hit in probably 10 years. Irrigation actually is really reasonable. Yes, the looks of it, to Katie's interest on how some of the looks of it is, I think that's also based on some backboard decisions on what was allowed to be expendable towards total irrigation costs, not just irrigation lines and sprinkler heads and so on and so forth, but what they wanted to water, didn't want to water, how much they wanted to water, all those things got reserved over time to suck up money to put into reserves and perhaps do other things. Why the project's like 200 some $1,000 of the rock, I don't know, but I don't want to get into that. That's past. But I think that brings a lot as to what these problems are today and why things got let go and why there's issues. So anyhow, that's my 2 cents. I'd put it at 20% up front. I would start getting the walls repaired and done now so it doesn't create more problems later. Obviously not all of them, but best hit and worst walls ever. And obviously we want to do everything we can to maintain our insurance, and which means also reduce some of the attorney's fees and try and work with homeowners a little bit on getting that taken care of so we can not have so many attorney's fees so we don't have to look at possibly losing insurance altogether. That's all.
Bill Hutter,
Thanks,
I'm
Scott.
asking you to unmute.
All right, thank you, Harmon. Yeah, these two questions are addressed to you. Based on the budget, we're all discussing about the wall of what the money funds are there. And you basically stated that it's based on a 50-50 homeowner and HOA contributions. And if we did determine that it was 100% HOA requirement, that basically is going to zap the fund out. But the question I have is, have we ever looked at the other expenses that we're barely touching, that we could take some of those funds and move them up to the wall maintenance?
Example?
Well, I wasn't looking. I was just saying is that because being the accountant, the CPA, is that you're looking at ways of possibility of helping the HOA out. Is that, well, let's take a look at all our expenditures and see which ones that we don't have to do a 2% or 3% increase. We can look at a 1% increase to offset. So not every single expenditure is going to be at a 1, 2, or 3 across the board. You're looking at the history of these account expenditures to see where we're barely spending any money on it, and it's increasing that budget. But we're just trying to allocate the best way to handle the wall situation.
A lot of your expenses are such as your electricity. We can't reduce that. We do look at the insurance. We look at things that can be reduced, such as insurance, things like that. So those expenses are looked at every year when the budget process is completed.
Okay, Brooke, are you a CPA?
Harmon's not a CPA either.
Hey, Bill, can I jump in?
So we don't have a CPA. Okay, so that's my biggest point, is that we're focusing on one aspect of the budget when we should be looking at the entire budget to say, where can we find savings by looking at each expenditure, by not increasing it with a flat percentage rate across the board?
Well, we didn't, sir. So were you here at the very beginning when I started going over the line item expenses for operations?
Correct. And you only gave the 2 types.
No, well, I went over every line item for expenses and explained what they are and why they would go up or why they're flat. So there are some contractual obligations that made them go up. There are the utilities like electric, the water to the golf course was a contractual obligation that went up. So where there are expenses that we can recontract and control, that's something we look at and we talk with the board and then we go out and do that. But unfortunately, a lot of the operational expenses are just out of the control of cutting at 1 or 2 or 3%. There is not a flat let's increase to increase on here. That's the operation. Now, when we looked at the model of reserve, that is not really a reserve in the budget sense. It's a reserve number to make sure in the future you have money to pay for that asset replacement. So that's a straight line. That's what do we think inflation is going to be for the next 10 years? 2.5%. So we start saving money. So in 2.5 or in 10 years, we have money to replace something, whatever that asset is, the playgrounds or the volleyball court or, the basketball court. And then when that's replaced, the board goes out and gets multiple estimates or multiple bids for it, and then they choose which one to do it. It's a guideline. It's not saying you replace the basketball court in 10 years. If it looks good in 10 years, you leave it alone. It's not a fait accompli. So you have operational, which we have some control over. And of course, you always want to make it as efficient as possible. And then we're trying to guess or estimate how much money you need over the next 30 years to maintain the capital assets. Maybe hopefully that answers it.
And yeah, okay, I understand. So the second part of this is based going back to what Alex was saying, is that if we do increase it and we then, like you mentioned about the surplus of cash, it's not good. And other than putting it to other expenditures, could you not offer the homeowner saying, if we do this increase and it turns out that we do have a cash reserve well above the forecast, could we not get a refund or a credit back to our HOA fees?
Typically doesn't happen, I'll be honest with you, but it is up to the board. What most likely would happen in a scenario like that is you would not have future increases until necessary. It's kind of like a credit forward, if you would. But, if the walls come out at $200,000 and you got lots of money going up, then you don't raise for a long time. Or if the board says, hey, everybody gets $100, that's up to the board.
Okay, I appreciate it. The last comment basically is just a statement, is that for the HOA homeowners and for the board, if we don't have a CPA, I don't know what we're doing. You need a CPA who can look at these things and estimate and see where our problems are and how to correct it. That is the responsibility of a CPA. What I'm seeing here, no disrespect, they're accountants. You need a CPA. That's what we need, who can look at these and give us honest feedback how we can better ourselves as an HOA. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Bodie asking you to unmute.
Hello, you hear me, Brooke?
Yes.
Okay, I don't really have any questions. I would just like to say that I appreciate Cody, Marcus, Alex. I think you guys have done a great job in a really short period of time. As far as the increase, nobody likes an increase, but I complained to my son the other day about the water bill, and he said, Pop, nothing goes down. So that's just the way things are. You see the insurance, you see everybody knows expenses are outrageous for everything. So that's the world we live in. But I appreciate that you guys, I think you gave an excellent explanation. These are really tough problems, and you guys came in with like little notice. They're hard things. They're not going to be solved in 15 minutes. It's going to take a lot of time and effort. Appreciate that you're doing it. And I would just like to say too that I'm not really happy the way we wound up in this situation. It was a weird thing with one board going out, a weird thing with a questionable election, a weird thing with people resigning right after they got elected. It's kind of a bizarre situation, but I think we wound up in a good place. Hearing you guys talk about these things, it gives me a lot of confidence, and I appreciate your work.
Thank you, Bodie. Beth asking you to unmute.
Thank you. I just second what Bodie said. Good job in your 10 days of being in here. Just a couple things I would like you to consider. So I've lived here a boatload of years, and when I first moved in, my dues were 120. Now they're 160. Dues never go down. You have to consider that many of our residents are retired and on a fixed income. So you're saying, oh, $16 is no big. That's $64 a year. That is a big deal to my 91-year-old neighbor across the street. That's a big deal. So do consider that. And to Harmon's point, dues don't go down. You don't get a refund. You don't get a credit back. So consider if you raise it up, 176 now, and then Harmon does a great job with his budgeting chart, and he's very thorough on that. So good job on that, Harmon. I'm an accountant, so I really love your spreadsheet. But those don't go down ever. There's always inflation. So consider that you're taking perhaps food out of your elderly neighbor's mouth with that little bit of change. It's not a big deal to those who are younger and working, but it is a really big deal to your elderly neighbors. And then just good job. It's been encouraging to hear you guys ask the questions, and I hope that you get more time to tackle these projects, and good job.
With no other hands raised, I will call.
Can you see
Oh.
my hand raised?
No, Art, but I see you talking, so go for it.
Okay. Hey, first of all, I'm using a phone, so you can't see me. Hopefully you can hear me. I'd like to thank Scott. That was an excellent explanation of commercial landscaping and maintenance of our and his and our shared irrigation systems. Thank you, Scott. As far as the 417,000, this time last year, I pulled that number out of my behind. I did not want, it was slightly less than half of our reserve at that time, and I did not want to deplete the reserves. The idea of that 417,000 was to start on Knox Road on the north side and replace those walls. And with what was left over, replace some or all of the walls in the northwest corner of the subdivision along the canal. But like has been said, we had no numbers to back that up. It's just we did not want to allocate the entire reserve for a project this year. And we go down to the item for gravel. The item for gravel is for the north side of Knox Road, because when we did the gravel project 2 years ago, we did not put gravel there in anticipation of doing the wall project. So that is a number with a bid to replace the gravel on the north side of Knox after we did the wall. And I'm sure there's other things. It's just a problem when you turn the board over, you lose an awful lot of organizational memory. So if anybody's got questions, you can contact me. That's fine. But thank you for my minute.
Yep, thank you, Art.
Thanks, Art.
No other hand raised. I will call to a vote for a 10% increase to 176. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, Alex, you're muted. I'm asking you to unmute.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, let me go back to sharing my screen. Okay, all right, moving on. We have the in-person meetings versus Zoom. We did go ahead and send out a survey to the community, and I do have the survey results as of 5 p.m. this evening. Out of 786 ballots that were sent out, we received 108. We have 42 votes for teleconference, Zoom, 43 votes for in-person, and 23 for no preference.
That was a lot tighter than I expected. Holy cow. Well, anyone who's on the call who did participate in that survey, really appreciate it. I know it was over the weekend, but thank you to those of you who did do that. It helps give us that feedback. It's really helpful.
Sorry, Brooke, could I just get that screen one more time? I just wanted to capture it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got
I
it.
can send it to you too.
Thank you.
Okay. Board, how would you like to proceed?
I would just like to say with regards to that I did see some commentary online regarding the survey and just want to make sure that the community is clear that this is a survey. It's not a vote for us to take action on directly the representation of this, but so that we can finally get a feel for where the community sits, at least the ones that are responding to these votes. It's the best that we can do at this point in time. So we're obviously taking this information so that we can make a more educated decisions moving forward. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with no motion then on the floor, then we would move to the next agenda item, which is tree trimming. This is provided by your landscaper. This is done every fall, and this is the current tree bid provided by GNL. He was hoping to do this actually already be completed with this because you have trees that are overgrowing into homeowners' property, hanging into the street.
Do we have locations of these trees and where they're at?
I would have to see if GNL does a map.
Anything that we can get on that, I'd like to know where these are going on so that if there are issues, we know what to refer to.
Yep.
How does this bill compare to last year's bill for tree trimming?
You did a lot of cut downs, right, of trees last year, was it?
Let's see.
These 3 trees. Wow.
I don't see we did any billing for removal for pruning last year. He charged hold on, Harmon's asking. There you go, Harmon.
Thanks. It looks like we spent $13,770 in August of 23 on tree trimming.
Yep, that's what I was just getting to.
Oh, I beat you to it, but okay.
Yeah.
That was tree trimming and tree removal, if I'm not mistaken, right? There were some trees that were encroaching on walls or whatever that were removed. Is that part of that 13?
No.
Oh.
Tree removal for last year, we did $550, $750, $600.
I'm actually looking at the invoice of that 13,000.
$1,900.
Yeah, on that invoice of the 13,770, Brooke,
Mm-hmm.
there was a jacaranda tree on Reseda that was removed, and removed 2 trees along the canal encroaching on homeowner property. So on that invoice, there were 3 trees removed for a total of $1,050.
Okay, so it must have been the year prior that we had all the.
I do believe that was a big project
Yeah.
year prior, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah.
So in 23, you have $17,845 in removals. But last year, you only cost of tree removal was $2,950.
Okay, so 22.
The trees that they're overgrowing into neighbors' yards. They don't need to be removed. They just need to be trimmed. And then you have the trees that are along Warner that are growing into the street.
Do we address in these costs additional considerations for trees that are overgrowing and falling on homeowner property so that we avoid those issues in the future?
Yes. Those are things that we go through, and I note if they're on HOA property, I will say, hey, what's going on with this tree? And then they take a look at it and either provide a bid for trimming versus removal.
Okay. So they're not preemptively notifying you or us saying, hey, we saw a tree at this corner, it's got a branch going into the homeowner's yard?
Sometimes. It just depends on what they're looking at the time when they're out. I'm not going to say no, but.
Got it. So we have to approve this before he'll go do anything, and he wants to get this done now. Is there a reason why he wants to do it right now, or can't wait a month? What's the
He's been wanting to do it since August.
Okay.
This was on your guys' first board meeting at the original election.
Got it.
It could be done. Your trees are just growing and causing more issues.
Yep. And I know this is the wrong question to ask, but I'm going to ask anyways. I know GNL is our landscaper. Mm-hmm. How does this bid compare to other tree trimming bids? Do we get a better price because we have a contract with him? Is it just, hey, here's your bid because it's extra work? What does that look like?
No, actually looking at your 93, you have 93 trees. Honestly, I just did a tree trimming bid for not even 93 trees and it was $17,000. This is actually a really reasonable tree trimming bid. His prices for tree trimming are very reasonable.
Okay. Can we, and again, the board has to sign this, could we approve pending we get locations of all these trees, like zone it out? Is that possible? Or do we have to get the information and then come back and review and reapprove?
No, you guys can. I wouldn't give him the approval. I would.
That's fine too.
say.
Yeah, I personally, I'd like to really know where these are at. See them, if there's any, they're going to be super impactful to just. I don't like just looking at a piece of paper that says, "Hey, here's $13,000." I want more information for me.
I'm not sure if GNL uses a mapping system or not. I'll be honest.
Okay. I mean, we could easily just give him. We've got the PDFs of the association. I'm assuming he could just maybe mark it, even if we wanted to mark with a marker where most of the trees are at, and use a color for each tree or something, just so we have an idea. I mean, that'd make me feel better, so we can at least be able to see it and then know how to be able to follow up, right? Because we don't know where the trees are, which trees are trimming. How do we know to be able to go follow up and make sure, we're happy with him, not knocking it at all, but I just would like to see more.
I would table it. Then I wouldn't approve it.
Perhaps I would wait for a ride along with him or one of his
That
guides.
could be helpful too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say though that every year you're supposed to trim your trees. I trim my trees every fall as well, and I know that I've got a good guy that I work with, and it's usually about $1,000 a year, right? So that's just my house, just my yard. So if we're getting a whole community for 13, to Brooke's point, I think it sounds pretty reasonable. To Cody's point, it's probably a good idea to make sure we've got everything either mapped out or detailed out, and we're not just saying, okay, 41 trees when really it's 31 trees, right? I'm okay with that, but I do know that I pay a lot more per tree than what he's charging us.
Same.
Let's just go ahead and table, and I'll request more information. The board can review that by email and going from there. Okay, so we need to set a next meeting for December. The two available dates that we have, they're 2 days next to each other. We have December 10th or December 11th.
Now on that, did we communicate to the homeowners that we were moving to a month-to-month meeting? Is that something that we should make sure that they're aware of for those that are listening and just let them know?
You guys did say that you would be having a meeting at the beginning of the call in December.
Cool. I am. I'm open.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good either way.
December 11th would work better for me.
Okay. December 11th works at 6 p.m. Okay. All right. With nothing else on the agenda, we would just need. There's not a motion on the floor, Amy. I'm sorry. There's no homeowner comment. So with nothing else, we do adjourn. I would need a motion for adjournment to executive session.
A motion.
Thank you. And that is at
I second.
7:59. Thank you, Marcus. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Really appreciate everyone's feedback tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Gary, well, good evening, everybody.